You'll come to a crossroads in your career quite often. There are life-changing decisions that you're going to have to make early on, and in some cases, those life-changing, those career-changing decisions are going to have to be made on a monthly basis. So we're going to talk about some of the top 5 life-changing, career-changing decisions that you may have to make as a young welder starting out and as a welder throughout your career. First, we're going to talk about local versus travel. Man, this can be huge. If you're lucky enough to get a local job that's in an outage area, then sure, you can still do that type of work. But we're not going to get quite into that just yet. We're going to talk about if I want to be a local welder, I'm going to work in my hometown or in my city or in my area, and I'm going to show up for work at a local fabrication company or a local job shop or a local manufacturing facility. I'm going to pull 40 hours a week, sometimes a little overtime, but not much, and I'm home in my bed every night. This may work out great for a lot of young welders. Maybe you want to stay under your parents' umbrella for a few more years and put your money in the bank. Or maybe you just don't have the financial means to travel or a good enough car or whatever. So the local work isn't such a bad opportunity when you're first starting out, or in some cases, let's face it, later on in life when you have a family and you don't want to travel. Maybe the local work is something you swing back to. So let's talk about the other side of that coin, traveling. The traveling outage welder, shutdown, turnaround welder is going to be someone who, in a lot of cases, we say chases the paper. So maybe you're from Kentucky and you work a job in Texas for 3 months in a refinery down there. And when that job is over, you jump up to Oregon. And when that job's over, you go to upstate New York. And when that job's over, you go down to Florida. When that job's over, you hit Alabama. And you're just jumping from place to place to place as a traveling welder. There's going to be some advantages to that. Typically, the advantages are the money. Normally, a traveling welder is going to get paid a per diem. So that's additional money on top of your check that you're going to be able to use for your living expenses, your hotel, your travel, maybe your camper. When you're thinking about traveling, do you want to camper up? Do you want to drag a camper around the country with you and find campsites? And hey, if you don't like where you're living or who your neighbors are, that's okay. Pull it on down the road and find a new set of buddies to live with. Or I know a lot of traveling welders who have decided to sell the camper in today's marketplace. Airbnb, vacation by rental, and all these different new apps are going to put you in a small home instead of a camper. And you can get these at a really good deal. So you have a little bit better options, a little bit more space, that sort of thing. When you're traveling as a welder, there are some different things that you need to consider that are a few disadvantages. Most of the time, a traveling welder has to keep up with their own health insurance and their own dental and their own vision and their own 401k and that sort of thing. So there are a lot of things that you need to consider. Are you going to travel or are you going to be a local welder? When you're thinking about being a local welder or a traveling welder, that's going to roll right into the next topic. We're talking about, are you going to be self-employed or are you going to work for another contractor? I spent a lot of my years as a self-employed welder. When you're self-employed, are you going to be an LLC? Are you going to be incorporated? Or are you going to be a sole proprietor? All of these different things are going to have a vast amount of different tax liabilities and tax reasons, and you should really talk to a good accountant or a good financial planner about the way that being self-employed can impact your career when it comes to that April 15th. Yeah, we know that IRS deadline on paying additional taxes or anything like that. You're not going to get a refund back if you're self-employed unless you paid in along the way. And in some cases, a lot of people will say that there's a quote, self-employment tax. And it's not really that. It's just that if you work for a contractor, that contractor is going to hold money out of your paycheck every week or bi-weekly, however you're paid. And then at the end of the year when you file your taxes, maybe you done things right and you get a little bit of money back, or maybe you didn't do things exactly right and you owe the IRS a little bit of money. When you're self-employed, there's nobody holding that money out. There's nobody sending that money to the IRS on a quarterly basis. So at the end of the year, you owe it all in one big lump sum, and be really careful. If that amount is over a certain limit, then they're going to put penalties on you and interest payments on you. So if you're self-employed, again, talk with the financial advisor about things that you need to do. Workman's comp, insurance, liability, things you can deduct. Can you deduct your truck? Can you deduct your travel, your hotel? Can you deduct other expenses around your house, like a home office if you're still living at home? When you're thinking about working for the contractor, yes, there are some benefits. There are some disadvantages too. The major disadvantage to working to a contractor is the freedom. A self-employed welder can go where they want, when they want, for as long as they want, as long as you're making money and covering your obligations. But when you're working for a contractor, then they're going to tell you where to work, when to work, for how long, and the duration of the job. Other than that one disadvantage, working for a contractor has a lot of other advantages. Some contractors are going to offer benefits, others are not. If that contractor is offering benefits such as dental, such as vision, such as health insurance, such as matching 401k, don't leave money on the table. If they're matching, make sure you're going to get your portion in. Those contractors are going to hold out the taxes that you're going to need to pay at the end of the year. Taxes is a completely different topic, but while we're there, be sure that you're holding out enough money, and talk to that financial advisor again, because if the tax law changes mid-season, like happened a few years ago, you could get stuck like a lot of welders were, where they didn't adjust those withholding amounts. So are you withholding with 2 dependents or 4 dependents or 0 dependents? And at the end of the year, you may be thinking, oh, I'm going to get a big chunk of money back, and instead of getting $3,000 or $4,000 back, you end up owing $4,000 or $5,000. So things are going to change throughout the year. If you're a traveling welder, are you going to work on the maintenance side of the house, or are you going to work on the outage side of the house? Two different things. Most people think of a maintenance job as a permanent job where you go in and it's maintenance and you're there for your career. And a lot of times that's kind of the way it is, almost like a local welder. But you can sign in a maintenance contract for a year or two with certain companies to where you may relocate to Chicago, or you may relocate to Baytown, Texas. And in those type of maintenance areas, you're working your 40 to 50 hours a week. You're doing a lot more than welding. You're doing nut, bolt, valve change, some weld, some fit up, all kinds of different things as that maintenance welder. And then when outage season hits, your hours go up, and sometimes your pay is going to go up as well. But if you're a traveling welder that wants to chase the paper and you jump from outage to turnaround to shutdown, those have some advantages. So we've already discussed some advantages of the traveling welder, but we haven't talked about the networking that's involved. Work is going to bleed into more work. So you're with a company and you like the company, what job do they have next? If you're on their outage list and you've done a great job and you've represented yourself well, then they're going to give you a call. So when this outage is over, they're going to say, hey, our next turnaround is in 2 weeks, or our next outage is in 5 weeks. Or maybe you met a supervisor that's going to the next job, and it's at a paper mill and you were just at a refinery, and from the paper mill you go to a coal-fired boiler, and from the boiler you're back to a refinery. So you can do outage work throughout the year. One advantage that an outage welder may have is being able to work their schedule to a certain point, I would say. So you may find yourself employed as an outage welder with a dozen different companies, and you may only work 9 months out of the year. Not that you're lazy, but you can use the other 3 months to spend time with your family, to go on a trip, to go four-wheeling or dirt bike riding, to do all the other things that your lifestyle can now possibly afford, as long as you don't overspend and overindulge in a lot of those different types of toys. When you're thinking about being a welder, are you going to weld structural or are you going to weld pipe? A structural welder is going to be someone who does a lot of plate welding, bridge work, iron working, steel building erections, a lot of those different types of things. Plus, a structural welder is going to work in that manufacturing setting, that production setting, where you've got a part or some assembly, some that sort of thing. But most structural welders are limited in that when it's time to weld to a pipe or on a pipe or with a pipe, they can't get to that level. Maybe that's because of their choice, or maybe that's because of their skill set. So structural welders are in high demand. We once had a job called to us, it was in Denver, and they were paying over 30-some bucks an hour for structural welders to come in. So don't think that we're saying that a structural welder is less skill or less money, because that's not where we're going. We're just saying you can do one thing and not the other. For as most of your pipe welders aren't going to go weld on a high-rise building or a new construction in the ironworking industry, because they want to go after pipe. They want to work pipe in the refinery, they want to do boiler tubes in a power plant, they want to do nuclear type of work. So pipe is a totally different thing. Most of your code welding tests, a pipe welder will qualify for a structural weld. So in other words, if you're working for a piping company or in a boiler or powerhouse and there's not some pipe to weld, you can jump over and do some of the structural framing type of work that may need done for that particular outage. So pipe welder is going to make you more versatile, more employable by more companies than a structural welder would be. So you're going to have a few more opportunities there, pipe versus structural. While we're thinking of pipe, let's talk about this last topic. We're going to talk about, are you carbon steel or are you stainless steel and alloys? There's a big difference. Remember, if you can't weld carbon steel, then don't say you can weld a 60-10 root. If you can't weld stainless steel, don't tell the contractor you can purge and put in a wetting band in that Schedule 10 pipe. Always represent yourself the way with the skill set that you have. Stainless steel is going to weld different. There's different alloys, there's different heat requirements, there's different preheat. Sometimes you got to purge, sometimes you don't. Versus carbon steel, sometimes you can have different alloys on carbon steel. It can be high carbon steel, it can be low carbon steel. Maybe you're using a 70-18, maybe you're using a 90-18. So decide which way you're going to go, and again, be versatile. If you can weld heavy wall carbon and thin wall stainless steel, you're going to be a very versatile welder and a highly skilled employee ready for that company. So hopefully this discussion about life-changing decisions and career-changing choices will help you get through those various crossroads that you're going to have as you go through your welding career and you're making the right choice for your family and your future.
So hopefully you guys like this video. We'll be putting out more videos on our YouTube channel, so subscribe to that. And also check out our website. We have links, and we also have shop for clothing and a virtual tour. Until next time, see you there.